Second city, but first in every team. Champion town, got trophies and them rings. Bulls on tap, we coming for everything. Tap sports, we coming for everything. It's apparent, nobody talking better than Melissa and Derek. They hate to compare it. Us and women's laced in the marriage, forever we cherish. Got opinions on the Bulls, who better to share it? I know you wish you can be cool as we foolishly and never be number one against our legends 2 and 3. Don't act like y'all don't know who you hear, who you see. Bulls on tap sports. Y'all know who we be. For real. Word.
What's up, Bulls Nation? You are now tuned into another episode of the Bulls on Tap podcast, presented to you by On Tap Sports Network. I'm your host, Derek, and as always, I'm rocking with my co-host, Miss Melissa. What's going on, Missy?
What's good, everybody? Great to see you. Great to be back.
And today we are joined by a special guest. He is the host for Chicago Bulls Central, Locked On Bulls, Bears Central, probably about 5 other ones out there. My boy Haize, what's going on, man?
What's going on? Thanks for having me, y'all.
Thank you for coming on, man. So we already got comments coming in. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights says, yo. Man, we got a lot of rumors to talk about some possible Bulls trades. I think we should kick it off with the one you broke on Chicago Central yesterday that I haven't heard many people talk about the Bulls discussing with the Dallas Mavericks around Vooch and Gafford.
Yeah.
I think Shams reported earlier that Derek Lively is out for like 2-3 months, so that might, kind of speed up some talks on that one.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it depends on how they view the Derek Lively injury, because I think the part of the reason why they were in the talks potentially for Vooch is because they did have a defensive center like Derek Lively who could pair with him. But now if you bring in Vooch, you don't really have kind of that front line defense if you send out Daniel Gafford. So I don't know if it helps or hurts the Vooch pursuit, but I mean, they are talking, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, is that, or hopefully the one I would like to see happen is the Warriors of Vooch, where I think Bulls are kind of like holding out for a first round pick. Warriors want to just send a couple of seconds and expiring contracts. Like, hopefully some movement on that and you can get a first out of Vooch.
That will work out so good for Golden State, honestly. Like, to see Vooch and Steph hoop together, that would be fire. Like, on the other side of things, not being a Bulls fan, that would be really dope to watch. Steph hasn't really had a center like Vooch, so that would be cool. But as far as we go, that would probably be our best bet too.
Yeah, I like the idea of Vooch and Steph together because of especially Vooch's interior passing, which is something that the Warriors can use a lot. I think Steve Kerr used Vooch very well in his system. But I'm not gonna lie, like the idea of Kevin Looney and expiring contracts for Vooch, you better send the first, because if you're not sending the first, we shouldn't even be in that conversation.
Yeah, I think they're like
the way he's been. Sorry, go ahead, Derek. My bad.
Yeah, I was like, I think they're just kind of saying who's going to budge first on the Warriors giving up that first, or if the Bulls will take the seconds. Because I don't know, Vooch's trade value is kind of like all-time high right now. I don't know if it's going to stay there.
Yeah, you want to take advantage of, like, Vooch is putting up all-star level numbers. Now it's going to be difficult for him to make the all-star team just because of the way that they've done the voting as far as like forwards and guards now. But Vooch's season, the efficiency, the hitting big shots, like just seeing him more comfortable out there, and he's been such an important part, like in Bulls in the clutch moments too. Like I understand if the Bulls don't want to sell low, like Vooch is the type of player you should at least get a first round pick back. And it's like if it comes from the Warriors anyway, it's going to be at the end of the first round, like outside the lottery. So run that pick.
What's going on, Steven, in the comments? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, his some trade values like all time high. You guys strike where the iron's at. You might not get any picks if you hold on to them for too long. And we know AK loves holding on to players too long and getting nothing for them. It'd be like another Drummond situation. Could have got picks, end up getting nothing. He went to where he wanted to go.
An Alex situation too. And
that's terrible. They got fleeced by Golden State. I mean, not Golden State.
Okay, see.
They got fleeced by the Thunder. Yeah. No picks for Caruso is crazy, but I don't know. That's AK type of thing, but I don't know. We'll see. Because maybe you get something done. There's more rumors coming in. I think Bleacher Report had posted like a trade scenario for Coby because something came out earlier about the Bulls maybe wanting to move off of Coby to start a full-scale rebuild and realizing he's one of their best assets.
Yeah.
Haize, is there anybody that you think like is untouchable? Is there anybody that you would like not want to move under any circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, Modest Bucilis for sure. Like, I don't think him clearly. If we're taking that away, I still think Io is somebody that the Bulls shouldn't look to move, and I think for a couple of different reasons. Not even just the being from Chicago thing, but he's a young two-way player that's played 3 positions for the Bulls. He's had levels of success at all 3 of those positions that he's played, and his contract extension, especially with the new CBA, he can only sign 140% of his contract now, which, if I'm not mistaken, if I do my math correctly, puts him at about $24 million. For Io's production, especially when he's a starter, $24 million for that, that's an amazing value. So I think if they're going to move Io, it has to be multiple first. And that may sound crazy for people considering like Io hasn't been completely healthy this season and stuff like that. But like, I don't see a world in which anything you get back for Io is worth more value than Io brings to the court. So Io's another one that I would not like to see the Bulls move at all.
You say you wouldn't like to see him move over?
Yeah, I wouldn't. You can't move Io in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like my untouchables were Modest, Io, and Julian. Like everybody else, they can go.
Fire sale. For me, it's Io and Modest too. I felt that way about Coby, but if you have to just do a fire sale, I mean, it would be Io and Matas for me too. Matas is like showing so much potential. I'm like really excited to see where he goes, even up until next year, even between the off season, like him putting on some more weight, hopefully, and just getting more refined with his skills. It's just really dope to see how much effort he plays with too. And, you know, he has pretty high IQ. You watch him and he anticipates where the ball is going to go, and he has zero fear, like we always talk about. So I'm really excited to see his future too. It's good to see he's starting to get slightly more minutes. Would still like to see even more than that, but that's been really dope to see.
Yeah, Modest has to get the same type of dirt on Billy that Billy has on AK if he wants to see some more minutes.
Yeah, Modest's thing is like, I don't understand it because if you look at like and I don't want to get basketball nerdy and bore anybody, but like I'm an advanced analytic guy. If you look at the per minute production, Modest is more productive than Patrick Williams on offense and defense. He's more aggressive in the in-between stats with blocks and stuff like that. Like, and people, I think, look at blocks and they think like it's just the wingspan that Modest has. No, Modest is showing great timing on those blocks. And as the game slows down more for him, that's going to be a really big weapon. And for a Bulls team that has missed rim protection for the last 4 years, I really don't understand why we don't play him more. It's not like we're winning. It'd be different if we were winning at a high rate. We're on pace to win like 40, 45 games. Okay, I can see if you're not going to play the rookie. We're on pace to win 34 games this season. We're not winning at a high level. You want to develop him. And Modest has shown, to me at least, that as he plays more minutes, he learns at a better rate. Like he's going to go through mistakes. He's going to make rookie mistakes. But Modest, I look at as somebody who, to me, he learns through failing. Like that's the best thing with Modest's mindset and how competitive he is. When he messes up on something, Modest is going to make sure he's going to try to learn everything to not do that same mistake again. So I think we're like taking those developmental opportunities away from him. I get it. Billy Donovan's a coach that's going to coach to win games, and it is what it is. But it's just some of those minutes that I just see from Modest, or some of the games at the end of the stretch. I'm like, why isn't Modest in this game? There's nothing that we're getting from playing THT right now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I talk about it too. Like, imagine if you had, not to compare people, but if you had like Montes' like his fire and attitude in Patrick. Like, Patrick's got all the tools, but the way that Montes plays, like, yeah, it's so unfortunate that he's not getting more minutes and he's not being developed even more. And I hope for the same thing. We've talked about that too so many times. Like, what are we doing? He's just rotting away on the bench. We're not really trying to win, even though that's what Billy says we're supposed to be doing. I mean, we already know that's what the ceiling is for this team. So yeah, play that man more minutes for real.
Agreed.
Yeah, to Haize's point, the young old man THT should not be playing more minutes than your 11th round and your 11th overall pick. Like, as Haize would say, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here, bro? Like, what are we doing here, man?
That man is a bulldozer.
He does.
Like, get out the way.
It's like when I found out THT, like, I'm 38 years old. If you look at me and THT, there's no way you would think that I'm 14 years older than THT. It's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that either. That was like the most shocking thing I've heard all season.
Yeah, shout out to Jacob. And so we really got 3 faces of Bulls content in here. By the way, I'm so ready for the Bulls fire sale so we can actually give real minutes to our young guys, especially Modest. Yeah, we're all in that same boat. As long as it means less minutes for THT, or we move him somewhere. But I'm looking at the supposed trade. I think it's from Bleachers Report that would revolve around Coby going to the Spurs with your boy Leroy for Keldon Johnson, Blake Wesley. We would get our 2025 first round pick back. Charlotte's 2025 first round lottery protection turns into a 2026 and 2027 seconds if not conveyed. The 2025 second round pick that's ours that we sent out. Atlanta's 2027 first round pick and Cleveland's 2030 second round pick. And I was like, yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat, but I have no faith that AK would be able to negotiate that.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with this, right? Like, I get it, everybody wants to see the fire sale, and I think that in a lot of ways that's the right move. But the problem is that AK has been so terrible at negotiating the last 3 years that I really feel like teams are waiting. They're like, no, AK is going to make a stupid move. Let's just wait him out. He's going to do something stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the holdup with Golden State and the Bulls for Vooch is they're like, we don't have to give up a first to AK. He'll take these seconds and be happy about it.
Yeah, he doesn't really make any sense because he also overevaluates our players too. And yet, I feel like he didn't even ask OKC for any picks. Like, I feel like he just like took it, just okay, yeah, let's do a swap. But yeah, it's like there's no consistency there. I want to know. You want to just like pick his brain sometimes and well, like open it up and see what's in there. Like, what are we thinking here between over-evaluating our players and not moving on them because you think you're supposed to get more, but then with the whole AC Giddy thing, I mean, that was like a gimme. Like, we should have gotten something else with that and got absolutely nothing. Let's make it make sense.
Like a second? You couldn't get a second, didn't they? And then they ended up trading like 5 second-round picks in the trade. Like 2 weeks later, it's like you couldn't get a second AK. Like I don't understand.
It's like you didn't even ask. Like you just okay, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we want Giddy. They said we want AC. He said done. Like that was it. He was like, oh, we got our guy that we're gonna have to pay in this offseason if we want to keep him.
Yeah.
One thing hopefully is Giddy has not played himself into a $30 million contract.
Listen, if they give Josh Giddey $30 million, I've been very, very good this season at not crashing out. because I had my expectations very low. I may very well crash out. Like, and that's no knock. Like, don't get me wrong. Giddey has had flashes. I think at 22 years old, Giddey still has a lot of development that he could do to be a solid NBA player. But $30 million, Kobe's only getting 12. Io's getting 7. What are we like 30 million? There's no way. Like, if AK gives after not getting any picks in that trade and then turns around and gives him $30 million, I may pull my beard hair out. That's how upset I would be about that.
I almost feel like it's gonna happen, and I hate to curse us, but just based off of like what we've seen with AK and how like they're just also really, the both of them are just really stubborn too. Like we've seen it happen, so you almost feel like they are going to do that because they traded for AC straight up, and now they got a point to prove, even though it makes absolutely no sense based off the production so far. But to be continued.
Even more than the production, like you literally had what looked like a developing backcourt with Ayo and Coby and their chemistry together, and you took all that away to try to get another point guard. Like, I get it. Kobe's not like the traditional, I'm half court, I'm going to set up all the offense and run it and have a lot of great assists. But the balance between Coby and Ayo was so good to finish that season last year, where you had a nice mix of offense, defense, Ayo developing as a 3-point shooter. And then you turned around and you had a player that should have been the most improved player of the year. And then you changed his role completely to make him a jump shooter, which, again, even if you do want to move Coby, you then hurt his trade value because you've made him look like a worse. It's just everything that AK does is so ass backwards. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. He was killing it last season. Off ball for him is difficult. Like you just said, switching these roles between the years that he's been here, now playing a completely different role. It's been kind of hard to watch, but it's also him just getting accustomed to playing something completely different, because Giddey needed to be a starter and wanted to be a point guard, and AK's like, okay, here, sure, come over.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like a lot of hate for Coby this year. Like, oh, he's inconsistent, and last year it was fool's gold. And I'm like, his role changed again, and you got him playing next to Giddey. And Coby was kind of the guy that you could hide on defense last year, but now you can't hide anybody on defense with Giddey out there because everybody is going to Giddey.
Like Giddey's defense, like he has his moments, right? Like I think Giddey, when he has a size advantage on a point guard, actually is pretty good defensively, and he's pretty good at guarding some point guards on drives. But if you start doing anything to where you're running him off screens, you got to decide to go over or under screens or any type of advanced actions that another opposing team's doing on offense, he's a deer in the headlights. He's literally a deer in the headlights, and it's so evident. Now, Kobe's not a great defender either, but I think when you look at Coby and the growth that he started to make defensively before his injury, was shoulder injury last year, before that, like it looked like he was starting to put it together, at least being a solid defender. But like I said, I don't want to turn this into like a crapping on Giddey segment here, like, because I don't want to do that, but it's just, you got to look at the fit. And sometimes it feels like AK and Billy Donovan, for that matter, feels like they can just force something to fit together. Like Coby White last season averaged 18.5 drives per game, meaning that when he tried to get to the lane, off that, he either scored on almost 56% of those drives or assisted on another 20% of those drives. That means when Coby White, towards the end of that season, when he drove to the basket, we scored on 75% of those opportunities. And then at the beginning of this season, up until like 2 weeks ago, Coby was averaging less than 10 drives per game. You've literally changed everything about how he got his offense and made him into a jump shooter. 60% of his offense was on corner threes and above the break threes at the beginning of the season. It was less than 40% last year. Everybody likes to think of Coby as like this 3-point shooter. He's a rhythm scorer, and you force him to be a jump shooter. And then you're wondering why he isn't as potent or not having as much success. Is like, he's an inconsistent player, but you maximize on his inconsistencies instead of maximizing on his strengths because you wanted to force him into a different role. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's sad to see what's happened to him this season. Like 2 seasons ago, he had zero handle either. Like just knowing that he worked so hard to improve his handle, improve his shot, like you said, and not the greatest shooter, but definitely improved it over 2 seasons ago. Did all that work only for this season for him to be thrown into a completely different role.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Because AK saw Josh Giddey as Lonzo Ball light. He believed those type of rumors of people saying he's like the same player as Lonzo, and was like, oh, I can re-up on Alonzo and then I can build this team out how I thought. Nah, man.
Yeah.
Put up Samity. Says he feels underdressed for this pod. He needs to start dressing up a bit more.
That's how I felt when I turned the camera on. I'm like, I should have done more than this.
What are the kicks looking like though, Melissa? Because you kill it on the shoe game. Like the shoes got to be elite.
You know, they're like little teal gray things. So they don't match. But I'm wearing camel pants, so I did a whole mismatch situation today.
Oh man, I mean, now like Haize said, if Josh Giddey gets 30 mil, he's going to crash out. I'm going to crash out if this situation where the rumors of the Bulls getting into this Jimmy Butler to Phoenix trade, which would land us Bradley Beal, I would lose my shit.
Yeah, please keep him away. I do not want Bradley Beal. I don't
That
care.
dude is the worst contract in the NBA.
Do you remember like 3 years ago where people try to have the conversation like who's better, Booker, Zach LaVine, or Bradley Beal? And it's like, do y'all see where this is went? Like Bradley Beal is probably one of the worst per contract per dollar production players in the NBA right now. And I get it. The goal of that trade isn't necessarily that Bradley Beal is some key piece for you. It's more so the Bulls getting back the 2 second-round picks that's rumored in that deal. I'm sorry, 2 first-round picks that's rumored in that deal. But I don't want Bradley Beal on this team. Like to me, I don't even know what to call it. Like it's a bad move all the way around. It doesn't make any sense. Bradley Beal is a high volume player for a team that's trying to spread the ball out a little bit more, and he's not efficient. Like, how do you look at that? And if you're going to take that back, cool, but it has to be like 4 first-round picks for 2, and they have no chance of being in the lottery at that. No, it's not worth it to me. It's just not worth it.
Like, if you're complaining about Zach's contract, like
it's almost 10 million more.
Right. Like, yeah, it makes no sense for the Bulls to do that at all.
No.
Yeah, people are getting confused. Like they're thinking like the goal is to like get off of Zach's contract. Yeah, but not at any cost. Like you could definitely get higher value for Zach. You talk about Zach LaVine playing at all-star level this season. Yeah. I hope not.
Number one Mando fan says, why is Zach's value so low, even though he's been balling out since the beginning of the year? I don't think his value's like low at this point. It's just, the CBA and his contract with moving it, but I don't think the Bulls just want to like give him up for a bag of chips. So I wouldn't say his value is low.
Yeah, I think it's that mix between the way that the Bulls see it and then teams again trying to wait everything out. I think that plays a part into this. But I think also like I don't know what it is about the NBA. Like that narrative last season really killed Zach LaVine because like the fact that Jordan Poole is higher ranked in All-Star voting than Zach LaVine also this year is like, why is everybody so sleep on Zach LaVine? There are 4 players in the NBA that have scored more at the efficient rate than Zach LaVine has. Zach is one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA in the entirety this season. And people keep sleeping on. I get it that Zach is looked at as like, well, he's not a number 1. Okay, cool. But that still shouldn't mean that you can't objectively look at what he's doing. He's doing something that's special right now. And if he was doing the same, if he had the same exact season and he was on a different team like New York or doing this in LA, people will be talking about him in such a different light. It's just, I don't know why people like to crap on Zach LaVine. It's really getting frustrating.
I agree with you. I think a lot of that has to do with like the narratives that were created last season. And the perception that he's been just kind of like not very easy to work with. I think that hurt him a lot. All the things that were happening last season, the rumors and so forth, and the whole, he's a locker room cancer and him being a diva, and then that Clutch Sports situation. Yeah, but it's apparent he can hoop. Like again, all-star level this year. Hopefully him and Vooch get a spot on the reserves. They both deserve. But
For sure.
he's been hooping this season. And he's been like, it shows that the way he's been hooping has been very natural too. No, not only has he been super efficient, but it's just like his game just seems so smooth right now. It doesn't look like he's even trying really hard to make things shake. Like it's just smooth. It's been really cool to watch.
Yeah. Sammy asked, which team pays the trade kicker if Zach gets moved?
It's the Bulls.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's the Bulls. They could try to negotiate it to where they don't have to pay him, but why wouldn't you take that money if you're Zach?
Yeah, because it's not like Zach's like screaming to get out of here. It'd be different if Zach was like, trade me now. And they were like, well, we can trade you if you waive this trade kicker. Cool. Like then maybe you have some leverage to get it done. But Zach seems like he's at this point content and he's reached a level of just like, hey, this is out of my control. I love being in Chicago. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here. And Zach's lived up to everything he said at Media Day when he said, hey, I want to be a part of this. I don't want to get in the way of the development of young players. And he's lived up to that. And I mean, when you look at the beginning of the season, there were times where Zach LaVine was scoring, but he picked his spots. He waited right into like he allowed other players to kind of get in rhythm. And then when nothing else failed, it's like, all right, bet let's it's on me. And I appreciate that part of Zach because Zach hasn't always had that like level of awareness. And this season is like the season where everything seems like it's starting to come together for Zach on top of the added defensive intensity that he's been playing with. Like you saw Zach LaVine asked to guard Donovan Mitchell, like in a game, like when they were trying to put P. Will on him. That we haven't always seen that from Zach. Zach's having a special season.
Yeah, definitely agree. Samity says, watching Zach live was something else. His play was effortless, and he was talking to Norman Powell and DJJ the entire time. Of course, that was the Bulls' last game, and they came out with a win because Zach like almost outscored the Clippers by himself in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Samity ended up going to the game, I guess. Remember he was talking about that?
Yeah, he went to the game.
That's crazy.
Went to the game with us on a 5-game losing streak, and maybe he was the good luck that snapped that losing streak. Number one Mando fan says, what's y'all thought on P. Will this season? I feel like he should be coming off the bench so we can play Modest more. He deserves minutes. Listen, if we can get rid of P. Will in any trade, do it.
Attach him to anything, please.
I've defended P. Will for so long because like I think there is a good basketball player in P. Will, but I think at some point you just have to come to understand that it's just not going to happen for him. And maybe it's just not going to happen for him here. Like P. Will is still a talented player. He still has tons of potential, but potential doesn't always mean that it's going to turn into realized talent on the court. And that's the conundrum that you're in with P. Will, because I can understand looking at him and seeing the flashes while you're like, we want to keep investing because eventually he's going to put it together. But at some point, the return on investment just isn't worth it anymore. And when you have dogs behind you like a Modest Bucilis and a Julian Phillips, eventually it's just not going to be worth it. And I think especially like if the Bulls do keep their draft pick in this draft, there's a guy that I'm looking for around 9 and 10, Asa Newell. I don't know if you guys have started your draft look. If you get Asa Newell, you ship out P. I don't care if you get a sock back. You don't worry about P. Will at that point.
Yeah, for me, I was defending him up until last season and like maybe the first few weeks of this season, but like it was that one interview for me that just took me over the edge where he like had zero accountability for why they played so bad. He was talking about the whole entire team. In that game, I think he had 2 points and he's talking about the whole team and what the team should have done, but like not pointing out where he was lacking, what he needed to do. But I don't think he's a bad player either. I really do feel like wherever he ends up going, if he does end up going somewhere, I feel like he'll do way better than he has here. He's been given all the tools here possible that the Bulls can possibly give. He had a mentor in DeMar, and just seeing the players around him, if that didn't get him out of his head enough or inspire him enough or make him, I don't know if it's even a matter of working harder. I don't know that anything will at this point on the Bulls. I could see him though doing much better on another team. I don't think he's a bad player either, but for some reason it's just not working for him at all here.
I don't know. Like that report came out where he's been passed from assistant coach to assistant coach because they're all like, I can't do shit with this guy. It's like send him home to Charlotte so he can play in his hometown and he can deliver flowers before the game at his mom's flower shop. He might be more comfortable doing that.
And the thing that makes it even more concerning is that when you hear at it, like his high school principal said that she used to tell him he needed to shoot more. His college coach said, I used to tell him he needed to shoot more. DeMar DeRozan and Zach have said he needs to shoot more. At some point, it's just like you've assembled basically the all-star cast of basketball whisperers. Peter Patton, Dan Craig, Wes Unseld Jr., all these guys have been in charge of player development for the majority of their careers. They've developed guys like Jokic, like Michael Porter Jr., like Bam Adebayo, like. So it's not the coaches. They have a track record of being able to develop people. And so when I read that report that Peter Patton basically is like, hey, this dude's difficult to work with, and he's trained players all over the world, that's all I needed to hear. I was done at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely a mental thing for him. And I don't know what it's a mental thing for him. Like you either have it or you don't. And sadly, like we have seen the potential. We know he can play. We know it's in there somewhere. But if he doesn't believe in himself, like, nothing's going to happen. And it's been interesting watching him play much more aggressively the last few games. I'm sure he's aware of of course he's aware of how the Bulls feel and wanting to ship him out. So it's been interesting watching him play with much more aggression, a lot less hesitation. But because of that, like he's been turning the ball over left and right. And you're just worried about him dribbling off his foot. You're worried about him not driving or missing a drive. And I don't know. I think he needs some like therapy or something. Like somebody get in his head because there's a good player in there somewhere, but it's just his mentality. I guess we've done a little research on him too, and we've talked about that like the last episode where we got to talk to his brother like 2 seasons ago. And to your point, Haize, like his brother was kind of saying the same thing about Patrick since he was in high school, kind of just defers to other players and never really feels like it's on him to like take shots. Like he'd rather give those shots up to anybody else on the team. But I guess that's just a mental thing. It's just how he feels about the game. I mean, you either have or you don't. He has zero dog. Zero dog in him.
His own brother said he should be coming off the bench. That pretty much lets you know everything you need to know.
And it's sad too because it's like P. Will at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you guys remember, like in media day, he's like, "Yeah, I want to step into a leadership role on this team," and it's like, what? What are you leading?
He was trying to lead the tank.
Maybe that's what it is. I mean, hey, if that can the case, maybe he can be a great take commander. But if you're talking about like leading the team to wins, it's not happening for you, my boy.
Lexus Man says, "What up, brother Haize? Wish we could trade both Billy and his son. Watching the Windy City Bulls, and they have at least 5 shot clock turnovers in the first half." The apple doesn't fall far.
I haven't followed anything with the Windy City Bulls. I guess he hasn't been doing so hot either.
No, like I watched. I don't always watch it live, but I always like sometimes on Sundays, like I'll sit back and watch like 3 Windy City Bulls games in a row. And when you see this, it's like. The whole point of the G League is for development, right? Like, what do we do? Because Billy Donovan Jr., I don't know where he coached before, what his job was on any coaching staff before, but you talk about Billy not being able to draw inbounds plays. I don't think Billy Donovan Jr. has drawn up a play all year long. I think he's really just being like, y'all got it. Go ahead and figure it out. It's bad.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of a difference in their coaching style. Like, they make the same dumb face, chewing gum, and Flaccavelli says, "Yeah, Pat is just who he is. He looks wise with us because we need him to do more, and that's just not his thing. I think another team will actually have a setup to where they need is for him to." Since it's worse, not wise. Okay,
It looks worse.
I have nothing positive with that at all anymore.
Yeah.
Like I guess AK is like saying the same because he's put pat on the trade block. After
Yeah,
giving him a $90 million 5-year contract, though.
Yeah, at some point you just got to realize it's just not going to happen for a player. And, I hate to say that because, like, I can honestly see a world in which Patrick Williams goes to another team and in a year or two, it's like, well, dang, Patrick Williams actually finally figured it out. But I think just at some point you got to realize and say, it's cool. It's okay if he didn't figure it out here. And I'm perfectly fine if he goes figure it out somewhere else because it's just not going to happen here. And I think that's the place that we've gotten in. Like, it's not like Patrick Williams hasn't had opportunity and minutes to grow. He's coming up on 250 starts in the NBA. He's basically been like, outside of him losing his starting position out of a couple of those years, he started since day one. So it's not like he hasn't had the opportunity. It's not like he hasn't played the minutes. And if you can't step up in that after 250 games in the NBA, I'm okay giving up on a player after that.
Yeah. It's like, that's just if any way you can unfollow them, take it, send them. No, now there's starting to be something with Bleacher Report again, where they are, I think, speculating that maybe Lonzo and the Lakers could be in for a reunion, maybe for some second rounders.
Yeah. I think the way I look at that part is like, I love Lonzo, and what Lonzo's been able to do in his return has been special. And I love the activity. I love the fact that he still looks like Lonzo Ball. But I think it comes down to just this question: like, if the Bulls know that Lonzo is not part of their future, you should move him to get something back. If they know internally we can't risk signing him into another long-term contract because his contract's up, then you owe it to yourself to try to see what you can get back for Zoe. That's not a knock on Zoe, who he is as a player or what he's able to do. He still has an overall positive impact for the Chicago Bulls by far. He's one of the best plus minus players that you're going to see on the Chicago Bulls. But if especially when you got Coby, you got Io coming up for extension soon, and even outside of the knee, Lonzo Ball has had his season almost ended early this year. That wrist injury was almost a grade 3. He would have had season-ending surgery. So if the Bulls know that they don't want to risk signing Lonzo to a long-term contract, I think you owe it to yourself to see what you can get back for him.
Right. Flaccavelli says Lonzo's nice, but let's be real. We need to sell while his value goes before he goes down. Let's not double down on the same mistake. My question is, like, maybe AK is like, I'll extend you for $10 million, and we're gonna put some injury protection in that contract. Then maybe he decides to trade him, and maybe that's maybe that nets you more because he's on a cheap contract. It's longer. You get the defense and shooting that Zoe brings, and you're protected with injury. So maybe that can net you more than just him on an expiring contract.
Good.
Mo says ideally AK should be shopping Lonzo to apron teams that want to clean up their cap sheet.
I don't know how I feel it, because I think that teams that are actually contending teams and they have a expiring or they have a contract that's, because they don't have to match Lonzo's contract, as long as they're not a second tax apron team, as long as they're over like 16.5 million, they could trade that because you have that percentage that you can go over on the trade. I think that Lonzo can do wonders for those teams because he's better than anybody. And then they have his bird rights to re-sign him if they're over the salary cap. So I get where Mo's coming at with that, and that could net you maybe more back. But I think kind of the teams that may be more aggressive about getting Lonzo are those teams that are playoff teams, and they're just looking for something. That's why I think the Lakers make sense, right? They're looking for some extra perimeter defenders after trading for Dorian Finney-Smith. Vanderbilt's I think he's about to come back. So you add that with AD, and you have a solid defensive rotation. So I can see why the Lakers and other playoff teams are looking at Lonzo. And I think it just depends on what you have to get back and how much money and how long-term that money is as well.
Flaccavelli says, actually, what are we expecting back for Vooch? Are picks on the table? Any rumors, or is it still teams lowballing us with cap relief? We talked about Vooch earlier. There's still a rumor with Golden State extending expiring contracts and maybe a couple of second rounders, and the Bulls are kind of holding out to try to get a first round for Vooch. Somebody says, "Can we trade AK and me for a different VP and GM?" Just asking for a friend. I don't think there's any franchise that would trade for a Torrance Quarter Shows. I definitely don't think there's anybody that would trade for Mark Eversley, because I've always asked, what the hell does he do?
I'm sure he does some. He probably does more than we know, but like, of course, AK is going to get all the acclaim of everything. But I mean, Mark Eversley's interviewed for either president of operations role in like the last 2 off seasons and haven't gotten it. So I don't know what's going on there.
I'm just like, that man never talks to the media. He's never around. They talked about his connection with Nike, and that helped get DeMar, and I haven't heard anything about Mark Eversley since.
Yeah, I wish we would hear more from him too. It's always AK. I want to hear from Mark too.
Derek frozen? Am I frozen?
The man say, hey, they don't pay me to talk, so. Oh man, is there any other trade rumors that you've heard going around, Haize?
No, I think we've covered all the ones that I've heard recently. I mean, there is that report that the Bulls are even open to moving Coby, but we've kind of touched on that. I don't think, like, here's the thing. Even Casey Johnson recently said on that new Fast Break show that he does, which is actually a fun watch. The Bulls are open for business, but it's like I don't think that they are aggressive in being open for business, and that could end up working out. It could not. All the talk is fine. I still kind of right now, maybe this is just my PTSD as a Bulls fan, I don't expect us to do anything at the trade deadline. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't expect nothing to happen.
That's how I feel too. That's what I said last episode. I feel like nothing's gonna end up happening. If anything, Zach gets moved in the offseason, but it doesn't feel like anything's gonna happen. If anything at all, maybe Vooch, but it kind of feels like, based off history, I feel like we're gonna end up with the same team by the end of the season too.
Yep.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if Vooch is traded or we don't make any type of moves. Man, the camera's froze. At
least that's a great pose to be frozen in. At least they didn't catch you like mid yawn or something like that.
Yeah, the last episode I was like mid blink, and it was just there.
It was just the little clock.
Your boy Z says he wants James Harden on this roster. Why?
That's almost as bad as Bradley Beal.
Is that a troll? Are you trolling?
Like, wow, James Harden. Mando fans, did y'all see the report about us potentially being the favorites to land Zion if he's traded?
That was betting odds. It's not like, so betting odds are weird because like who sets that? Like who came up with like, yeah, if Zion gets moved, it's going to be to the Bulls. Like who sets that? I don't see. I get it that the Bulls have made stupid moves. Make no mistake about it. I'll never act like my team has not made stupid moves. They have. But what does Zion do for the Chicago Bulls other than the ability to maybe come? He has that opt out every summer if he doesn't work out, so you can gain some cap flexibility there. But like Zion is more injured than Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball almost combined. Why would you want to risk giving up anything for that?
I mean, that's just I don't see the reward in that risk. Like the dude barely plays. He has to have weight limits in his contract, and you're gonna send him to Chicago?
Can you imagine how big Zion would be if he had access to Harold's and Portillo's?
Exactly.
Harold's, Portillo's, all the pizza. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
That man would be on more billboards for Pequods than he would see playing time on the court.
Man.
Sock 6 says, Bulls, keep your players. Trade Zach, Vucevic, Lonzo, Torrey. I think it's kind of a malpractice on AK if he does not at least trade Torrey Craig, who I'm sure teams will give like a second rounder for.
Yeah, I think Torrey Craig had a vet minimum contract, and the fact that Torrey Craig's one of those players who plays better when he does play off stars, you gotta at least you gotta heavily shot. If you're not gonna do anything else, Torrey Craig's the layup move. Like at least get a second back for Torrey Craig. He's not in your rotation. The only time he played is when like everybody was injured. Like you might as well get something back for Torrey. Now the unfortunate part is Meg Thee Stallion a part of the negotiations in that? Can you include the fact that she would come with them? Is the question.
I'm like, this man didn't even get playing time when she was there. Flogabelly says, plus if we got Zion, we would need a plan to start contending because you can't afford to waste his youth. Your boy Z says James Harden is better than every player on our roster besides Zach.
That comment is automatically a failed drug test. That's the way I look at that one.
Jamal says, I hear this is supposed to be a really good draft, but is this a deep draft? How valuable are the 2025 second round picks? I don't know.
So I'm very heavily into NCAA basketball. The way that I'll say this, Modest Bucilis in this draft would go anywhere between 25 to the beginning of the second round. That's how good this draft is as far as potential. Modest Bucilis would be in the 20s pick at highest in this draft if he was in this draft this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like more reason that we need to keep our pick by any means necessary. Yeah. Samity says AKME would need a plan first. Slow down, everyone. Yeah, Acme's not gonna. They're not good at planning. True Rogues is Samuel says, is he talking about current Harden or OKC James Harden? Sox Bulls brass love Meg Stallion and the Bulls. Harden better than Zach, makes more winning plays and operates the offense.
Again, I can see if we're talking about James Harden 5 years ago, but this James Harden now, and it's not to say that James Harden, he's James Harden, the way that the Clippers use him is a high volume, low efficiency player, but his passing does help set up people like Norman Powell, things like that. But I'll say this. If you're talking about just overall as players that can fit in anything, Zach LaVine is a better player right now than James Harden. I think when you factor in the defense that Zach LaVine is playing this season, the poise that Zach LaVine's playing with, if Kawhi Leonard, you can guarantee he's going to be 100% healthy, Zach LaVine will play off Kawhi Leonard better than what I think James Harden would. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't know why this is a topic here. Like a couple of James Harden's fans have entered the chat. I mean, I don't know. Well, one of the things for sure is the Bulls are going to have representation at the All-Star Weekend this year because Lil Boozy Vert is in the dunk contest.
I hate that nickname.
You hate that.
I love Stacey King, man, and how Stacey has helped me in this. Like he's given me a lot of pointers when I first started. But that's the only nickname that Stacey King's come up with that I legitimately hate. I hate that nickname.
I feel like that's something we should talk about here. Why do you hate it so much?
Oh, we still with Sox 6 here says Zach plays no defense. Harden plays better than Zach except dunking.
Yeah, he's stuck in 2008. Like I don't know what to say on that one because Zach playing no defense. Go and look at the advanced analytics. Zach LaVine is a considerably better defender than James Harden this year.
Like way better.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew says, Haize, what about the Bulls trading for Miles Turner? Just a thought.
I don't think that makes sense because the Bulls aren't trying to make moves to make them a better team right now. Like I think I get why you're asking that, and that's a fair question, but the Bulls aren't trying to make moves that are going to put them in a better place to contend in the East. If the Bulls do make moves, it's about gaining assets back, clearing their cap sheet some. That's what it seems like the Bulls' goals are here. So I don't think that's a realistic deal for where the Bulls are right now.
Okay, so let's circle back to this. Why you got beef with the nickname, man?
Cause man, okay, so here's the thing, right? Little Uzi Vert, that name means something for the city that he's in. It has no connection to the city of Chicago. And on top of that, do you really want to link Buzelis to Little Uzi Vert of all people? Like a Little Boozy I can get with. Little Boozy Vert, no, I'm good on that nickname, man. I get it. It is catchy, make no mistake about it, but I hate it. I think that Booze deserves something so much better than that nickname, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the reason for the vert was, modest vertical, but I don't know. Either way, I'm excited to see him in the dunk contest, and my money's on him.
I'm really excited to watch him too. I watched him in the McDonald's All-American dunk contest too. He's decent. I'm excited for it. We got him, and then we got Tim Sinclair. He's going to be doing the Saturday games too.
Ooh, that should be nice. Has Mac McClung announced if he's in the dunk contest this year or not?
No, I think it's just Modest and what's that other rookie?
Okay. All right.
Your boy Z says James Harden solves our horrible point guard play, but defeats the purpose if you give up Zach. Yeah, Matthew said it's Stephen Castle. So Castle and Modest are currently the only participants announced.
Yeah, the thing is that if Modest Buzelis wins this dunk contest this year, on top of Mac McClung, we got to stop the narrative of white men can't jump. I think that's been proven false at this point.
Moore says James Harden is a high functioning role player at this stage of his career.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, let's talk Bulls. Let's go. The three best dressed Bulls fans around.
I do indeed got that shit on. Now I just want to make sure everybody does know that I'm just not playing.
Who else we got in the comments now? Lexus Man says, it seems to me that AK in the front office only goal is hope of finding a star player, but what about construction of the team as well? And I think that's kind of been a big criticism so far, is how AK has constructed these rosters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what we got into earlier, like changing Coby's role to a role that's so different than how he got his offense last year. Like AK I do think that initially, like bringing in Zoe and DeMar and Vooch to pair with Zach and Patrick Williams in that starting five, bringing in Alex Caruso to be that guard off the bench. I do think that there's an idea of he was thinking about fit there, right? Like Zach LaVine hasn't been a great closer over his career. You have DeMar DeRozan, one of the best closers in NBA history. Zach LaVine doesn't necessarily make the best decisions in the clutch leading into that point. You got Lonzo Ball. He's able to facilitate and drive that, and he's a defensive guard next to Zach LaVine. So I do think he showed a little bit of it there, but your plan is only as good sometimes as the audibles that you also have prepared. And after that plan crashed with Lonzo's injury, he's shown no focus on thinking about roster construction and how it all fits together. It's literally seems like AK's just hoping something sticks to the wall at this point, and that very rarely ever works out.
Yeah, we've talked about that too at length. Like those first few weeks before Zoe went down, it did seem like we might have had something there. I mean, obviously we were a top seed, but after that happened, made zero moves ever since. It's like they were kind of hoping that Zoe would come back, and we were just kind of like left in the dark. There was not a lot of transparency around like what was going to happen with him, if he was recovering or not. Even like the injuries were, I feel like we already know about the medical staff and injuries being mismanaged and lack of transparency to the fans and all that stuff. So yeah, nothing happened. No moves were made. And that was like the biggest mistake. Unfortunately, we wasted years with AC, DeMar, Zach all together, just kind of waiting on Zoe, hoping something would change or hoping he would come back.
Yeah, I have to make this joke every time my camera freezes. This is an accurate representation of what AK is thinking at the trade deadline. It's just kind of a smile like, huh, and nothing.
Yeah, he doubled down on the continuity and then being competitive, but like this is now three-ish years of the same roster, and the core has been together this long, and that's long enough. It's time to make some moves.
Yeah.
Brock says, "What's your take on the P. Will to the Mavs rumor?" I have not heard that one, so that's news to us.
I think that started because of the Daniel Gafford thing, and people started saying, well, Gafford and P. Will's contracts are more similar than Vooch's and Gafford's contract. But I don't see, now that the Derek Lively's down, I don't see the Mavs making a move for anything but a center. I don't think they can trade a center and bring back a wing player with Derek Lively being out the next 2 or 3 months.
Your boy Z says, by the way, I'm talking about next season when he is a free agent. I think he's still referring to James Harden, and has the Bulls signing Harden as a free agent.
No, we wouldn't have the cap space. No, keep James Harden far away from the Chicago Bulls.
Sox Bulls will never get a star player. It's about draft picks and free agents. Chicago's not an NBA free agent destination. Look how Jerry treated Jordan. This clown thought 21-22 was going to do what? I mean, yeah. Chicago has not been a free agent destination, and
yeah,
our best bet is building through the draft.
That's a fact.
Which, AK said that's what he was about, and then turned around and did the opposite and traded away draft picks.
3 months later, he said, we're going to do it right. We're going to build organically. We're going to develop and do it through the draft. And 3 months later, you traded for a 30-year-old center, gave up most of your current future picks at that time. Like, it's just like, again, I'm trying not to completely roast AK. I'm giving him this last trade deadline to show me he can do something. But this offseason, if we go into it again with like the same questions on what this roster is doing, I have nothing left for as far as positivity with AK. I just don't.
Especially with him finally kind of like admitting that it wasn't working, which is like a different tone than we've heard the last few seasons. Yeah, something's got to give.
I mean, last offseason he said, "What we're not going to be trying to push for the play-ins because we don't want to be stuck in the middle." But you're not playing your first round draft pick because you're giving minutes to THT to what? Try to win? That would have us in the play-ins.
Yep.
It's kind of like whatever AK says, you got to expect the opposite at this point.
That's a fact.
Let's go 6 again. Says season 21-22 Bulls will forever be a play-in or sliding out the play. Y'all got a rough, tough job. Brock said Butler suspended for 2 more games. That trade you mentioned earlier tonight, Haize, might be closer to happening.
We shall see.
I mean, hopefully something happens soon. The Heat are definitely going to have to pull the trigger on something because Jimmy is causing disruption in their organization.
I made the joke before. I said Jimmy is about to be on that Nas Ether vibe to get himself out of Miami if he needs be. So,
your boy Z says, how y'all feel about a trade for Jalen Suggs?
They're not giving up Jalen.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would want to give him up.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
All right, so let's bring this segment back with Haize. We want to know your Bulls origin story. How did you become a Chicago Bulls fan?
Shit, born and raised in it. I mean, some of the earliest pictures, like, is me sitting on my dad's lap as like an infant watching Bulls games. So, it was my dad's born and raised south side of Chicago. So it's been ingrained in me. Bulls, Bears, unfortunately the White Sox, which I look at my dad all the time, is like, why did you choose the White Sox of all the teams? So yeah, I mean, it's just I've never rooted for another team. I've never even thought about switching to another team. So I've been a Bulls fan legitimately my whole entire life. We went to a Bulls game in 92, 3-ish, somewhere in there. And I remember that like being I was 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. And that is like such a seminal memory in my mind that like I still look at like going to Bulls. Still to this day, when I go to Bulls games, I get like filled with like jitters. Like it's just that it just means that much to me. So the Bulls, my dad has a saying, it's one of the sayings I use in my podcast: God, family, and the Chicago Bulls, in that order. So that's what I was raised under. So
That's what's up. Favorite memory that you can recall of like a game or
yeah, so
experience?
Funny enough, Derrick Rose, when he made his return back from his injury, the Bulls played a preseason game, strangely enough, in St. Louis, Missouri, against the Atlanta Hawks. That was the first time I ever got to take my son to a Chicago Bulls game. That's one of my favorite memories. Not only seeing Derrick Rose get back on the court, it was like his first or second game back, and it was just amazing. And that, like, seeing him and his excitement for that game was something that was special. So that sharing that moment with him. And then Derrick Rose's second year, I can't remember who we played in the playoffs in the first round in his second year, but I went to one of those games with him as well. That was a special game also. So those two are probably the best memories as far as going to a Bulls game. And then a couple of years ago, when me and Pat, the designer, shout out to Pat, almost got into a fight with Jimmy Butler. That's always going to be a good memory.
What?
Wait.
Hold on. We need to hear
this story. We need.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all know me, Petty Roosevelt. That's when I was at my most high of Petty Roosevelt. There was a time, it was the Pat Bev game. If y'all remember, it was a home game against Miami Heat. Pat Bev went off for like 20 points in a quarter. We won that game, and there was a period of time where Jimmy like fouled like Io or something. I can't remember who it was. And I was like, fuck you, Jimmy Butler. And he looked over and he looked right at me. And then he said something to me, and Pat were like, all right, Jimmy, watch yourself. That was like, and security even came over, like, just sit down, y'all. So that was a moment.
Where were y'all sitting? How close were you guys?
Oh, we were right behind. We were like the second row. We were basically on the court side. Yeah.
That's crazy. You think he would remember you if he saw you guys?
I don't know. He may.
Hey, Jimmy's petty too, so he might remember.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I feel like he might.
Yeah.
Let's talk Bulls. Haize had a Bulls blanket at the hospital when he was born.
Probably.
Did you ever have like any secondary team? Like, have you ever rooted for like another team? Because some people do have like, like it's Bulls for life, but then I also have a secondary team I root for.
So one of my favorite players ever is Baron Davis, because he was one of the first players I got to watch from all the way through college till they went to the NBA. There was a period of time where I always rooted for whatever team Baron Davis was on. So for on the Hornets, the We Believe Golden State Warriors, I love that team. So that, like, because I follow Baron Davis around, so it'd probably be that. And then other than that, right now, I'd say the team that I watch the second most is the Memphis Grizzlies, because I just love Ja Morant.
Yeah, he's still great to watch.
Yeah.
That poster on Wemby, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Wemby been catching a lot of posters.
I know.
Hey, that's what it comes with. Like Wemby that's the next stage of Wemby's career, because like now that he's like, he averages 3.5 blocks per game, people are going to be like, hey, can I get Wemby tonight? And I can't wait to see how Wemby adjusts to that, because that's that trial by fire in the NBA. Once you gain and claim, there are going to be people who zero in on you and want to be the one to get you. So we'll see how that's going to happen.
Brock says, Rodman kicking the cameraman, great memory. Mando fans, could we get involved in that Heat trade to move LaVine to the Heat while Suns get Butler and we get picks and a salary filler? That's definitely better than people were thinking that we would get Bradley Beal.
If you could put together like a starting five of all the Bulls players that have played throughout the years, who would your starting five be?
Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, definitely Joakim Noah, and see, that's the thing. I want to pick Dennis, but having Dennis and Joakim Noah in the starting lineup is kind of redundant a little bit. Who would I pick at the 4? I'll say Lou. I'll say Lou at the 4 because they need another defender out there.
That'd certainly be like a death lineup.
Yeah, for sure. With and then if you could have Noach, Kirk Heinrich coming off the bench, man.
So Kirk got brought up a few episodes ago when we had C-Red on, C-Red Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, he hates Kirk Heinrich.
I don't understand it. I don't understand. I know, like, I don't understand how anybody can hate Kirk Heinrich. Like, he's like the perfect example of what it means, like the type of players that we love. He worked hard. How he changed his body to play next to Derrick Rose when he gained that 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason so he can play shooting guard next to Derrick Rose. Like, I think in this era as well, with the volume of three-point shooting and his ability to play defense, Kirk would be even more dangerous in this era.
Yeah, but I mean, he absolutely destroyed Kirk on his birthday.
That's crazy.
All right, so the Bulls are back in action tomorrow against the Golden State Warriors. It's an injury update earlier on Coby. He has nothing structurally wrong with his ankle, but is going to be out for tomorrow's game. And Ayo's been doing some on-court work, probably plays, and Leroy has rejoined the team from his illness.
Leroy.
So, do we have any predictions for playing Golden State? Maybe Vooch goes out and dominates and like send that first round so I can get up out of here.
I don't do predictions when it comes to Bulls anymore, man.
Somebody says, who Leroy? Leroy Javon Carter is his full name.
Leroy, man.
Yeah, I have no predictions. the way the Bulls, I mean, it's like inconsistent. We could say that, yeah, they play to the level of competition, but that's not even consistent either. Like it's just completely inconsistent. So I have zero predictions. If I have to give one, I'm gonna go with an L, but that's based off of like zero. Because yeah, we do play down to our competition, but we also have an amazing way of losing to just about anybody.
Brock says I guess it's saying halftime trade with Golden State.
That's funny.
Like, just send Vooch at the half. Like, you are here. They got covered that first round though.
E40.
He says I'm more concerned if E40 is attending.
I want to know though, Haize, real quick, what made you get into like content creating? I do want to know that. We didn't really touch on that. I know that you have like such an extreme love for the sport of basketball, the Bulls, obviously, and the Bears. What made you get into it? In the Sky, you do stuff. You do stuff for the Sky too.
Yeah, for sure. So I have been in content creation for almost 11 years now. So I used to listen to this, funny enough, wrestling podcast, and they used to do a live show every Friday where you can call in and stuff. And so I used to call into that show on Fridays, and there was one time the podcast used to be MLW Radio. It was like a radio show in Canada too. But I called in, and the guy's co-host was out, and he was like, "Hey, would you mind staying on with me?" Because I called in on time. He was like, "Would you mind like finishing out the show?" It was like 30 minutes as his co-host. I was like, "Yeah, sure." And afterwards, he was like, "Hey, you're really good at this." So then I stayed on and I did that for a little while. And then after like a year or two of doing that, I was like, I want to take, because I didn't know anything about podcast. I didn't know how to edit audio, did video or any of that. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I wanted to take what I learned and I wanted to do something more meaningful. So then I started a podcast that was about mental health, social activism, all that type of stuff. And I did that for like 5 years. And I had kicked around doing a Bulls podcast forever and talked to my dad about it. And so my dad, one day, we were on the conversation. He's like, why haven't you started that Bulls podcast yet? And I was like, Dad, I'm not an insider. I have no sources. I'm just somebody who loves the team. And can I curse on this? Because I want to say exactly what he said. My dad said, why are you being a pussy? I didn't think I raised a pussy. And I was like, okay. So I started the podcast like 2 weeks later, and the rest is history. I did Chicago Bulls Central, I think, for 6 months. And then I was like live one day, and somehow somebody asked about the Bears, and they're like, damn, you're really passionate about the Bears too. When are you going to do a Bears show? And I was like, listen, I don't have time. If I do a Bears show, the Bears stress me out. But then I ended up starting the Bears podcast. And then when that Sky season rolled around, I realized there weren't really a lot of Sky podcasts out. So I started that too. And now here I am with 3 podcasts. So
how do you find the time to do everything? Like, it's very much no excuses for anybody else with as much as you pump out.
I think for me, like, I'm somebody who, once I can figure out a routine, I can make anything happen. And so not even to like toot my own horn. So I'll walk you through my day real quick. I wake up at 6 o'clock every single morning. By 6:30, I'm down here putting the episode together. I still have a full-time job, so I work at 9. So between 6:30 and 9, I usually record Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central, and then I get it edited, get it posted, and then I schedule everything for like social media posts, and then I start my job. And then in the evenings, it's like if the Bulls game's on, I have that. So like it's just me managing my time really well. I'm also a single father. Like, my kids live with me. Their mom's like 400 miles away. So it's just me and the kids too. So like finding that balance is kind of hard sometimes. But for those that watch my live stream, y'all know my son would come down here at any point in time and just be in the camera. And I had to start being okay with that. Like, so it's just, it's passion driven because I love it. And the way I looked at it is this: I was talking about the Bulls and Bears every single day anyway. Whether it was on the phone with my dad, whether it was my uncles, whether it was anybody, I was always talking about the Bulls and Bears. So now I just put that time into actually doing the show. And so I just balance it out that way.
I love that. That's super inspiring. I mean, you're always putting out something. So it's like, again, for everybody else, like, you cannot make any excuses. You see Haize doing this for 3 different teams. And like you said, a single father. So, and a full-time job. So shout out you.
You know, like it says Haize makes watching the Depression Bulls a little bit better.
Little Haize, my son. Yeah, because he's so funny. Like, he'll literally come down in the camera and ask the randomest things. He'll just be like, can I get ice cream? I'm like, you had to come down here and ask me for ice cream now? Did you finish dinner? No, we'll finish dinner. Like, then he always likes to, and he'll ask my chat random questions. Like, he's been on this thing of the Northern Lights. So like, he wanted to ask everybody in the live stream one day if they've ever seen the Northern Lights in person. And I just embrace it. It's a family show, so we have fun with it.
That's what's up.
So is Lil Haize also a Bulls fan? Like, your dad kind of had that for you growing up? Is he? Yes,
he absolutely is a Bulls fan. But he hasn't learned the patience yet, because the moment the Bulls are down by 10, he's like, all right, I ain't got time. I'm gonna go play Roblox or something. Like, when they're winning, he's intense. He won't leave. Let the Bulls go down by 10 or more. He's like, all right, Pops, I'll holler at you. Let me know if they pull it out and win. But I gotta go. So
I don't know. I think that he might have it better figured out than the rest of us, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I'm like, hey, that's better than my son at this point. He's like, Benny, and once Benny's gone, he's like, I'm all right. Fucking, it says Lil Haize making smart decisions at a young age.
Yeah, that's
protect your peace. Protect your peace. That's what I always tell him. You got to protect your peace.
Brock said, did he have a choice?
So I have an 18-year-old son too. So my oldest son is 18. My youngest son is 11. My oldest son was a LeBron James fan for a while there. And I can understand it. It is what it is there. I didn't like make him feel bad for it until he was like a teenager. And I was like, how many LeBron James games have you seen in person? He was like, yeah, you got a good point there. And I was like, exactly. So who's really your team? And he's now a huge Bulls fan, but he's also a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So he's traded off being a LeBron fan. So now he's a Bulls fan through and through, but he's now a Kansas City Chiefs fan instead of a Bears fan. So I'm like, we got to get this together too.
Shout out to our guy Troy in the comments says, "Quick stop on my lunch break. What's up, legends?" He said, "There's always a while. These are always while I'm at work." Here's from Troy. We appreciate you tapping in, man. Yeah, Haize, you gotta you gotta get it right with the Bears, man.
I mean, it's hard for a long time. I mean, listen, the Bears are a stressful team, so I really can't blame them. But I think now with Caleb and Ben Johnson, how this offense is probably going to look, that's going to be my hook. I'm going to get him back in.
I mean, pretty much all Chicago teams have been stressful. So
yeah, that's true.
The Sky was the last team that gave us some kind of hope. Obviously, the last one to win a championship. Are you excited for Sky season?
Absolutely. I'm always excited for a Sky season. I don't know what the hell they were doing with Kennedy Carter, but I'm always excited about Sky season. I love the WNBA. I've been watching WNBA faithfully for like 11 years. So I'm just as big of a Sky fan as I am a Bulls fan.
I love that. Kennedy's probably out of here.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, I see of a trade scenario being kicked around on Twitter by a guy, Justin from the Blade Horns podcast. It says Julius Randle for Patrick Williams, Javon Carter, and Chris Duarte to get Pat out of here.
Listen, I love Justin. That's my guy. But his hate for P. Will is at an all-time high. I can't blame him, but it's at an all-time high.
I don't hate him. He's just not a fit here anymore. I mean, I don't know if he ever was, but yeah.
Troy, it is not just you. My picture is frozen. Doing the impression of AK and his move since that 21-22 season. Brock says the Sky have an Aussie.
They don't anymore. They used to. We had Elena Smith, I think is an Aussie, but she's not on the team anymore. But yeah, was Ema Missman an Australian too?
I think so.
Yeah, but she's also gone.
Flag Bully says Sky is so much more exciting than the Bulls right now. I mean, you got Angel Reese, so superstar potential there. Troy says Justin from Blade Horns' hate for P. Will is nothing compared to his hate for THT.
That's funny.
Somebody says he definitely has to check out the Sky game when they're in LA and Vegas.
I wonder is that Stamity a LA or an LA Sparks or Vegas Aces fan or a potential Sky fan?
Boise says shout out to you guys, Bulls Nation. Brock says apparently Giddy's younger sister is good. And Troy said they drafted Shayla Hale, but released her. Okay, well, guess this is going to do it for us tonight. So, Haize, you want to tell them all your podcasts that they can listen to and where they can follow you at?
Yeah, you guys can follow me at CEO Haize, the CEO Haize. If you want to check out my Chicago Bulls podcast, it's Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears. Basically, if you put a team, it's Chicago, that team's name, and Central afterwards, you'll probably find me. That's the way that it is.
All right, well, thank you again for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. So, I guess until next time, go Bulls.
Go Bulls.